Hi everyone, my name is Chen. Today I'll present the topic of history of face masks and the help from manufacturing companies. Today's presentation contains 4 parts. To begin with, let's get an overview of the pandemic. Introduced to the public at the end of 2019, COVID-19 has influenced the world for over 2 years. The pandemic has brought great change to both the economic structures and people's lifestyles. Over the past year, we all have to make adjustments to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. Some of them have been small, but another adjustment we have made is wearing masks in public. Have you been paying attention to the directives of where and when and even who should wear masks? And there is a good chance for you to be a little confused because they've changed dramatically. In US, people are not just used to needing to cover their face and nose with masks in public. But if you look in other side of the world, it's a different story. In parts of Asia, wearing a mask in response to the coronavirus pandemic was a totally easy and normal adjustment. How could the situation in two societies be so much different? It's not simply because of different social formations and cultures. To figure this out, we have to explore the history of face masks, and it goes back to the Great Manchurian Plague of 1910. The Manchurian Plague was a pneumonic plague. It killed 60,000 people, simulating a multinational medical response and the wearing of the first personal protective equipment, or PPE in short. A young Chinese-Malaysian doctor by the name of Wu Liande, who once studied abroad in Germany, France, and the UK, was assigned to investigate and carry out preventive work. After conducting a post-mortem, which is usually not accepted in China at the time, on a Japanese woman who had died of the plague, Wu deduced that the plague was spread through droplets in the air and quickly recommended all medical staff and the general public wear face masks globally. He also developed surgical masks into more substantial masks with layers of gauze and cotton to filter the air. A French doctor who was supporting Chinese government at that time disputed Wu's recommendation of masks. A few days later, he died after catching the plague when visiting patients without wearing a mask. The mask was widely produced, with Wu overseeing the production and distribution of 60,000 masks in a later epidemic. It is believed that the N95 mask is a descendant of Wu's design. The Manchurian Plague is believed to have highlighted the importance of a multinational medical response, setting precedents for organizations such as the World Health Organization. Wu Liande's widespread promotion of closed plague mask wearing by doctors, nurses, patients, contacts, and the population at large was the first time such an epidemic containment measure had been attempted. The event was also influential in establishing the use of personal protective equipment to stop the spread of disease, and is credited for the origins of the modern hazmat suit. After the Manchurian Plague, the whole world was stricken by the 1918 influenza epidemic. After that, the mask culture has a division in two sides of the world. It was only 7 years after the previous pandemic, so masks designed by Dr. Wu began to be used around the world. It was globally recognized by doctors as well as the public as a necessary and efficient device. Photos of police officers, nurses, and even baseball players wearing masks were meant to convince more people to wear masks, just like celebrities using Instagram or TikTok today. It can be assumed that everyone was wearing the mask in the US, but not that universal. Local health officials were calling on people to wear masks, and in some cities, there were mask ordinances, so if you were caught without one, you were fined or you went to jail, and women were being called upon to sew masks. But right after that 1918 pandemic ended, Americans kind of stopped using masks. Masks basically fell into obscurity in the US. But in China, there was never a chance for people to forget masks for too long. The mask story does not end in 1911 or 1918 and continues through several pandemic breaks. Again, the mask plays an important role in public health campaigns. Mask scenes can be seen in a great number of public health propaganda posters. Governments aware people of the importance of wearing masks and require people to wear one during those pandemics. Then flash forward to the SARS in 2002, This time around, everyone remembered and knew what to do. People in China inclined culturally to wear masks. They just had more occasion in recent history to wear masks since they all know what to do and how to deal with it. But it's still not easy for every citizen in China to wear masks, especially for those elder people. Younger people were really having to nag their parents and grandparents to wear masks just like they were being nagged to get married. It's taking Chinese people 100 years to get to this point of acceptance of wearing masks during infection disease outbreaks. Now it's to the point where people just wear them when they get a cold or in winter just to keep warm. It's a normalized daily behavior and no one would look strangely for choosing to wear one. But in US, people would wonder why you wear a mask. According to a UK-based medical anthropology specialist, masks were seen in the West as racialized and associated with China, which led to xenophobic behavior. COVID-19 has since put mask-wearing doubts aside, as people around the world are not just encouraged but in some cases required to protect themselves and others by wearing personal protective equipment. In March of 2020, as frontline healthcare workers told to keep the first wave of patients infected with COVID-19 alive, sudden shortages of hand sanitizer, gloves, gowns, and face masks in particular hampered their efforts and placed their own health in jeopardy. Individual people are not the only ones changing their habit to live with coronavirus. Manufacturers are also finding themselves in uncharted waters, switching to produce masks and other PPE we need. Many companies retool their manufacturing lines or factories to make and restore PPE. ISIC Industrial Sewing and Innovation Center, the national sewing goods manufacturing and training nonprofit based in Detroit, is centralizing one of the area's most substantial responses to date in the production of personal protection equipment. While many mask production efforts are underway, access to proper materials through traditional supply chains has remained elusive. ISIC's network and partners were able to successfully source polypropylene, spunbond, and melt bloom materials, offering much higher protection from viral particles in the PPE that will be produced. ISIC had been making efforts in purchasing advanced manufacturing equipment to enable automated mass production of more than 1 million masks per month. With no experience in the health field, Burden Snowboards, a privately owned company that makes snowboard equipment, apparel, and related accessories, quickly hatched a three-pronged effort to protect frontline workers. First, Burton contracted with the Chinese mask factory to manufacture and distribute 500,000 KN95 masks to healthcare facilities across the Northeast. Next, it retooled its 10,000 square foot snowboard facility in Burlington, where it normally prototypes new board designs to make face shields for hospitals. In May and June, at the height of its ad hoc PPE operation, Burton designed, constructed, and donated tens of thousands of disposable face shields and reusable brims to healthcare facilities, including Boston Children's Hospital. Lacrose helmet maker Cascade stopped manufacturing Lacrose equipment when its work was deemed non-essential. Instead of making sports headgear, the company leveraged its resources to start producing face shields, which in turn put some of Cascade's approximately 75 employees back to work. The pandemic is a worldwide threat. Governments, manufacturers, and individuals has put great efforts in fighting against the virus. Things are getting back to their normal trails, and we should have a strong will that the world is going to be a better place. That's all for my presentation. Thanks for listening.